Recall that in the first video I mentioned there was a difference between a chant, which is something said chorally in a musical way, and a poem or a rhyme. The big difference between a chant and, on the other side of the equation, a poem or a rhyme, is that in a poem or a rhyme there's going to be a point, as in informational point. It's literature in that sense of the word. A chant doesn't necessarily have to be literature. It doesn't necessarily have to communicate an idea. And it's this idea that is the important thing with fluency. When we ask children to read in a fluent way, they have to read through a sentence or through several sentences to get the big idea. We can help them get this larger idea by using vocal inflection and reading or reciting longer phrases, longer sentences. Remember that most poetry that you would read to your children will be in a rhymed couplet. Rhymed couplet, obviously, is going to be that the rhyming words are at the end. The rhyming word sticks out at us because we want children to be able to hear the rhymes. However, the words rhyme by a matter of convention. The reason the words are all on this page and the reason that the last two rhyme is because the author has a point to make. There is an idea. Where is this larger idea? By way of example, let me recite "The North Wind Doth Blow." This will be in a very typical music class, music education sort of way. The north wind doth blow, and we will have snow, and what will poor Robin do then? He'll sit in the barn and keep himself warm, and hide himself under his wing, poor thing. It's very pedantic. Ya da 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 da. Da 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 da. And every time I accented the da da da, those were rhyming words at the end of the phrase. Correct? Correct. However, that's not the point. The point of the poem is to describe a scene where a bird is cold, the robin, the bird is cold, and it's winter. That's the point. So if I said this differently, in a more rhetorical and literary way, it would sound like this. The north wind doth blow, and we will have snow, and what will poor Robin do then? He'll sit in the barn and keep himself warm, and hide himself under his wing, poor thing. The north wind doth blow, and we will have snow, and what will poor Robin do then? It's a question. The third line is a question. And what? So what is going to be the important word? It's got to drive to that point. The north wind doth blow, and we will have snow, and what will poor Robin do then? So we'll answer the question now. He'll sit in the barn and keep himself warm, and hide himself under his wing, poor thing. In both of those stanzas, the poem drives to the third line and then backs away. The north wind doth blow, 1, and we will have snow, 2, 3. And what will poor Robin do then, poor thing? And then he'll sit in the barn, 1, and keep himself warm, 2, the third one, and hide himself under his wing, poor thing. So it drives to the third line. Let me say it again. The north wind doth blow, and we will have snow, and what will poor Robin do then? He'll sit in the barn and keep himself warm and hide himself under his wing. Poor thing. It's always driving to that point. Here's a poem by Ken Nesbitt from his site poetryforkids.com. And this one is My Car is Constructed of Pickles. Iambic pentameter. My car is constructed of pickles. It's wonderfully crunchy and sweet. If ever I'm hungry while driving, I pull off a pickle to eat. If I'm looking at the poem, this first stanza, it's in 4 lines. And the first line it ends with pickles, sweet, driving, eat. And we know from our ears that the sweet and the eat are the rhymed couplets. Even though it's written in a way that goes, my car is constructed of pickles, break. It's wonderfully crunchy and sweet, break. It shouldn't really be said that way. My car is constructed of pickles. It's wonderfully crunchy and sweet. Now, if you were looking at just those 2 lines, so we have my car is constructed of pickles. It's wonderfully crunchy and sweet. Now, out of all of those words, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. Out of those 11 words, wonderfully is the one that sticks out. That's the point of those 2 lines. My car is constructed of pickles. It's wonderfully crunchy and sweet. Wonderfully crunchy and sweet. If ever I'm hungry while driving, I pull off a pickle to eat. Pull off a pickle to eat. And notice he uses alliteration there. That's important too. It's that second line. Ba-dee-dee-da-ba-da-dum-bee-dum, and at the very end of the second line, there's a place of pause. Now, if ever I'm hungry while driving, I pull off a pickle to eat. Pull is an important point of those 2 lines. Pickle to eat. And eat is the cadence. It's the point of rest. The engine is made out of gherkins. The dashboard's an extra large dill. The dashboard's an extra large dill. The windows and wipers are kosher, as well as the bumpers and grill. As well as the bumpers and grill. The hood's made of hamburger slices. The gas tank is brimming with brine. Brimming with brine. The doors are delectably salty. The stick shift is simply divine. Just as we saw in The North Wind Doth Blow, it's the second line that really is the important line, and it's the first part of that second line. I challenge you to find any poem out there, especially in a rhyme scheme like the ones that we've been talking about here, that doesn't fall into the same type of rhetorical cadence. It starts off in the beginning and it moves through the end of the first line to the second line, and then the beginning of the second line is important. Here's one. It's I Have to Write a Poem, also by Ken Nesbitt. I have to write a poem, but I really don't know how. So maybe I'll just make a rhyme with something dumb like cow. Okay, I'll write about a cow, but that's so commonplace. I think I'll have to make her be a cow from outer space. My cow will need a helmet and a spacesuit and a ship. Of course she'll need a blaster in a holster on her hip. Now notice how it's going da-dee-dee-da-dee-da-da-ya-dum-ba-dum-bum. There is a point of arrival, which is going to be in that second line, and then it fades away to a cadence. Well, fading away may not be the right word, but it diminuendos to a cadence. And then at the very, very end, he writes, I hope the teacher likes my tail. Amazing Astro Cow. Notice how right there, amazing, that's a great word, like wonderfully. You would not want the kids to go, I hope my teacher likes my tail. Amazing Astro Cow. Even though it's rhythmically accurate, it's kind of dorky. I hope my teacher likes my tail. Amazing Astro Cow. Pause. Yes, that's the poem I will write as soon as I learn how. So the punchline, which is as soon as I learn how, should be a diminuendo. I hope the teacher likes my tail. Amazing Astro Cow. Yes, that's the poem I will write as soon as I learn how. Using a lot of vocal inflection is going to help your students, your children, get the oral gist of how language, rhyme, poetry communicates an idea without the words. The last stanza. Ba-yum bum 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 bee-dum bum bum bum. Yum bum 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 ba-yum bum bum bum. And if they understand that the weight of a poem or a rhyme is in that second half of it, might they listen more carefully to that part? Because that's the important part of the whole. Just something to think about. If we want our children to be fluent, they need to understand the rhetoric of language, which is most effectively communicated non-verbally with the weight, inflection, and accent of our voices, with and without words.